going formally live here in a few minutes, just kind of getting warmed up, looking for my favorite music, and let's see if we can find it. Created a Patriotic playlist on my iTunes account, which is kind of cool. But let's see, where's my favorite? We were playing Lee Greenwood before. That's a great song. This is one of my favorite. This is by Annie Bosco. Annie Bosco sang the national anthem for Ben Carson in a rally in Anaheim Stadium when he was running for president. So we'll let this play for a minute while I get organized. By the way, how do you like my shirt? Like it. I'll tell you more about it in a few minutes.
Through the night with the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white with foam. God bless America. To the oceans, white with foam.
Let's see, I just made it. Oh, my music went off. I just made the post public. We'll replay this. And then Mary's going to be joining me here in a minute. So hang tight. We've got a couple minutes and then we'll start. Hey, Amanda, I see you're online here. Hey, Les. Nice to see you. Get McKenna out to watch too. It's great. This new system called Restream works great. Yeah, Metallica. Next time maybe. I'm not much into that. I'm into more classic rock and patriotic music. Hang tight for a minute. Hey, James. Sherry, nice to see you. Yeah, I'll stay strong as long as I got my wife's support. Hey, McKenna, nice to see you. Thanks for the birthday wishes. All right, Aerosmith next time. Yeah, hello, Virginia. Welcome. Arizona. Hey, Christy. Bet it's nice and toasty there. Give me a temperature check, Christy. What's the weather like in Arizona? Hey, Travis. Travis and LoSal. Thanks for being there. Hey, Diana. Okay, let's turn the music off and get rolling. First of all, love this shirt. Thank you so much for a friend, Kyle, who gave me this shirt. Just to let you know, it's kind of cool. You should check this out. SilentMajorityGear.com, SilentMajorityGear.com. Most importantly, they stand for God, Family, and Country. And there are no products that are made in China. So I kind of think this is kind of cool. So great. So I don't know if you heard, but our governor's an idiot. No, really. Did I say that out loud? Don't tell anybody. So today is day like 4 or 5 off the governor's watch list. And what that means is once our COVID numbers get to a certain level and we're off the watch list, which we are here in Orange County, then we count 14 days and we can open up the schools after 14 days. So what that means for Orange County Classical Academy is we were planning to open after Labor Day, the Tuesday after Labor Day. Made perfect sense. We're getting ready, organizing the classrooms, putting in our protocols, yada, 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 until the governor today changed the rules once again. He came out with some new guidelines. Instead, now there's a color-coded system. And of course, Orange County, once again, is on his radar. I don't think he likes Orange County. Maybe it's because the County Board of Education sued him recently to get the schools back open. We will ask Mari in a minute when she comes over. So we're back where we started from. Now, interestingly, the county health official, Dr. Clayton Chow, C-H-A-U, has put out a tweet. Actually, I'll read you the tweet because it makes no sense. The tweet makes sense, but it's very different than what the governor has told us today. So there's a little bit of confusion in the air. No surprise for California. Here's from Clayton Chow. The state has confirmed this afternoon that as long as Orange County continues trending in a positive way, K through 12 schools can reopen in-person instruction as of 9/8/2020. So we don't know what the reality is. We don't know what the truth is. We're trying to figure it out. So we have messages out to our supervisors to try to figure out exactly where we stand. It's really hard to plan, and it's not fair for the kids. You know, kids are very low risk for COVID-19. They're very high risk for not going back to school. We've seen the suicide rate at the highest level ever amongst children. There's been more suicide deaths from children than COVID-19 deaths. And in California, we've had, I think, a total of 3 deaths of children less than 18. Now, don't get me wrong, any death in a kid is an absolute horrible tragedy. But every year, we have a lot more deaths as a result of influenza. But we never close our schools due to influenza. We never require the masking of children due to influenza. So it just doesn't make any sense that we're behaving in a much different way as it relates to COVID-19 than we are influenza. It just doesn't make any sense. And the argument that, well, we got to protect the teachers. Well, I get that. And we do have to protect the teachers, especially if they're in a high-risk group, older than 65, underlying pre-existing conditions, and so forth. But we shouldn't protect the teachers by sacrificing our children, and that's exactly what's happening. Interestingly, actually it's not very interesting, but we're seeing about a 25 to 30% reduction in reporting of child abuse. And it's not because there's a reduction in child abuse, it's because there's a decrease in reporting. The majority of our reporting mechanisms are the schools. The teachers that notice something, the counselors, administrative staff, and so forth. So when we keep kids out of school, we reduce the reporting of child abuse and only the children suffer. It's not fair. My friend David Bonson, who runs the Bonson Group, a money management firm, is one of the brightest analysts of the COVID data. So I want to share with you a little bit. This came out today. And I'll just read you a little snapshot from this. And Mari just came out, so we're going to invite her into the picture in a few minutes here. Confirmed new cases are down now over 37% from the July peak of a month ago, and are down over 12% on a daily average basis from last week. So, you know, this is fantastic information, but of course, it's not being reported. And even apart from the dropping hospitalizations and dropping cases, the hospitalizations per confirmed case has dropped substantially from the spring levels. unambiguously supporting the notion that the recent infections affected a less vulnerable and more healthy group. So we heard about the so-called second wave in California. It was actually a first wave because our empirical governor shut us down hard at the beginning of COVID, so we really didn't have a lot of cases. Of course, as we opened up, we expect to see cases because all of us are going about our way and going back into businesses, and more of us are getting exposed. So of course we're going to have more cases, not to mention all the violent protests that were going on, not just in this state, but around the country. And so what we're seeing is it's the less vulnerable group that now is being exposed. And as a result, when we saw escalation of cases, we really didn't see an escalation of hospitalizations. You know, this is getting just crazy that we have to talk about this over and over and over again, when the reality is, you know, people like you and me, relatively young, yeah, I just had a birthday, but healthy, are not much more at risk of COVID-19 than we are of influenza. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're in a high-risk group, if you're older than 65, 70 years old, if you have a significant underlying pre-existing condition, use caution, be careful. But if you're relatively young and healthy, man, go about your life. Some common sense precautions. Wash your hands well. Use some hand sanitizer. Don't go into really crowded areas. I get all that. But for goodness sake, this is getting old and ridiculous. And, you know, I'm thinking maybe, just maybe, we're going to see a red wave in California. Let's hope so. Sorry about the interruption. Okay. Healthy group lending support to the idea many epidemiologists have proposed that the virus is losing potency. And I think that's true. Yeah, thanks, Dad. We cut the lights in the background, so it's not blinding us. Appreciate it. Yeah. Okay. A new study from a team of researchers at the La Jolla Institute of Immunology, La Jolla, that's down here in San Diego, has provided further support to the notion, which is quickly becoming the census scientific view, that prior exposure to the coronavirus that causes the common cold may be providing some protection against COVID-19. It's worth repeating that prior exposure to the coronavirus has been around forever. In my office, prior to COVID, if you came in with a bad cold, upper respiratory infection, there's a local lab. We put a swab up your nose and we check for about 4 or 5 different types of viruses, including coronavirus. Coronavirus is one of the most common viruses that cause the common cold. So prior exposure to coronavirus that causes the common cold may be providing protection against COVID-19. I'm almost done. Clearly, there is some cross protection for other seasonal coronaviruses. Sarah Fortune, chair of Harvard's Department of Immunology, said. Finally, the FDA, and this is some good news, the FDA gave emergency use authorization to Abbott Labs yesterday for their $5 rapid antigen test. So it's a nasal swab, office-based antigen test, results in about 15 minutes. It's super cheap. And they're expecting tens of millions of these to be available in September. We're looking into purchasing it in our office, so hopefully we'll be able to have it. Unfortunately, it's not yet, there actually aren't any yet that are sold directly to the consumer, and I think that's really kind of the next wave. And so here's the article, LA Times, about Governor Newsom literally changing the rules again about whether businesses can open or close or what the heck is going on. Okay, finally, and then we'll invite Mary in. You ready, honey? I'm ready. Okay. I just want to give you a preview here. I think I've told you that I wrote a book, and the book just came out. I've only got a couple copies. You got to search it, and it's on Amazon, but Amazon says not available yet. We're expecting the bulk of the copies. The way Amazon works, I'm learning. First of all, they take like 50% of the cost of the book, and it goes right into what's the guy's name that owns Amazon? It's Jeff Bezos. Anyways, so but they sent a couple of copies to our publisher, and so here's the book. It just came out. Physicians' take on the exaggerated fear of the coronavirus. Here's the cool part. You see that? forward by Dennis Prager. It's super cool what he wrote. And then on the back, I got the sage from South Central, Larry Elder, to write a blurb as well. So I hope you enjoy it. It can be ordered directly now through my publisher, and that's the Americas Group, theamericasgroup.com. You can go right online if you can see that. I think there's maybe even a phone number. Anyways, the Americas Group. And then hopefully by next week, I'll get back on with some social media, and hopefully we'll get, I'm going to ask Dennis to put me on the radio to promote it a little bit, and maybe Elder will have me back on and elsewhere, and I'll give you more details when you can actually type in my name and it comes up on Amazon, or you can go directly to America's Group. All right, let's talk education. Ready, honey? Come on over. Come on over. There should be like an applause button, so when she comes, you can give her like a standing ovation, and we can hear applause on our end, but not so much. Then I'm gonna look back at some of these comments too. It's hard for me to look at comments and also kind of talk. All right, everybody, welcome Mari Barke. So what most of you know, but I'll give a little background, is Mari is a board member of the County Board of Education. County boards are different than the local boards. By the way, welcome, honey.
Thank you.
So tell us, first of all, a lot of people don't realize this. There's a lot of confusion. What is the difference between the County Board of Education and all the local boards? As most of you know, I served on Los Alamitos Unified School District for 12 years. There's Anaheim Union, there's Fountain Valley, and so on and so forth. What's the difference? What does the county board do, and how is that different than local boards?
The county board mostly serves as an appeals board. If your child wants an interdistrict transfer and the local district says no way because we want to hold on to the money that follows your child, then you can come to us on appeal. That's one of our one thing that we do, especially this time of year. We also appeal charter schools. So if you want to open up a charter school and the local district says no way for various reasons, you can come to us and hopefully we'll approve a viable charter school. We also serve to appeal expulsions. If your child is expelled and you disagree, you can come to us for that. And we also manage about a $250 million budget. So we are mostly an appeals board, but what we also like to do is provide leadership. Our constituents expect that they've elected us and that we will help them through things that have gone on from Common Core to sex ed and now to reopening of schools. So that's a big part of what we're doing right now, even though we actually have no jurisdiction. And we can't tell anybody that they can or cannot go back to school. We like to provide information to our constituents about the schools reopening.
Awesome. So, recently the county held this panel, this expert panel, that gave advice and information about reopening the schools. Tell us about why did the county board put this panel together to begin with?
Well, because everybody wants to know when schools would reopen, which is a great question. Kids lost the last couple months of the prior year, and they want to know if and when schools will reopen. So just happens that the superintendent mentioned that he was actually holding behind closed door meetings starting in April about reopening schools. And I said, wow, that's great. We want to know more about that. Can we attend the meetings? And he said, no way. And I said, really? So a board trustee can't attend a meeting at the Board of Education? And he said, no. I actually asked him 3 times in public session. You can go back and listen to it. And he kept saying no. Things like really smart, intelligent people will be there, professionals. And then said that I would change the dynamics of the meeting. So I said, well, if you're truly not going to let the Board of Trustees even observe the meetings, I offered to just observe through Zoom since they were being held in Zoom. I didn't actually have to participate in chat. I'd like to at least just observe and, let the public know what's going on. But he said, absolutely not. So I said, well, then I guess we'll just have to set up our own very transparent meetings. And at that point, I was president of the board. That was back in May. And that night, the minute I got in my car, Ken Williams and I, who was the VP at the time, now we've traded roles and he's the president and I'm the VP. We said, okay, we've got to put this together. I came home, Jeff helped find some doctors that were qualified to serve on the panel. Ken Williams found some doctors. We reached out to the California Policy Center to actually draft a white paper and moderate the event. So to make it easier on the board, so we wouldn't have to actually moderate the event. As a result, we put together a transparent meeting. Everyone was invited. Somebody even asked me, did we invite the superintendent? Absolutely. The doors were open. Anybody could attend the meeting. Due to social distancing, it was limited, but it was also available via Zoom. So,
and Clayton Chow, our own acting county health director, was part of the meeting as well.
Yeah, we had a bunch of medical professionals from various areas. We had a infectious disease specialist. We had a child psychiatrist. We had an emergency room / attorney. We had, who else did we have?
Superintendent.
We had a superintendent that had just recently retired, but was a beloved superintendent for years with a great educational background as a teacher and a principal. We had another education expert, Larry Sand. We had Clayton Chow, we had Don Wagner, the local supervisor. So it was a great mix, and we had tons of parents who had waited in line to come in and to also share great information. As a matter of fact, one of the first experts said, wow, these parents have stolen our thunder. It's amazing what research they've done. So the trustees listened to these experts for, I think the meeting went on about 2 hours, and after that ended, Will Swain, the president at the California Policy Center, put together the white paper. Some edits were done by Ken Williams, and then we published a white paper that wasn't based on approval of the experts, but based on the discussion with the experts. It's what the board trustees felt was the conclusions based on the discussion.
So the experts, because I was there, I wasn't one of the experts. I would have been fun to be, but I didn't think it was appropriate. I didn't want there to appear that there would be a conflict of interest. But the experts had an opening statement, I think 5 minutes each, and then each trustee had 2 rounds of opportunities to question the experts. And I think there were, several thousand people that were on Zoom. The meeting room could only hold a limited number of people, but on social media and on Zoom, as a matter of fact, I think you guys broke the Zoom limit, and you had to move over to YouTube, the YouTube channel, and you literally had thousands of people watching.
We did have thousands.
So you came out with this white paper. The white paper was not mandating anybody do anything. It was just simply one of many papers to give guidance to school districts that maybe were looking for a different perspective than the guidance that was coming either from the superintendent that held meetings behind closed doors without public input, or guidance from the California Department of Health. The CDC had guidance. The American Academy of Pediatrics had guidance. So locally, you come out with the white paper, and what did you do with the white paper? And can you tell us a little bit about who has used it and some of the feedback you got?
Yeah, so the white paper was published. It was put up on our website at OCDE.us, although you probably will never find it. I can barely find it on the website, but if you want it, just reach out to me, Mari at maribarke.com, and I will send you a copy. We handed it out to several people. I've sent it to people in other states. Probably the earliest success was with a school in Nevada County, California, and the name escapes me. I can look it up. But they basically, as a result of information in that white paper, they voted 3-2 to reopen their school in person. So that was pretty exciting that we actually made a difference in children's lives. And that's what we want to do. We just want to provide choice. We want families to have the choice to return to school. We're not telling anybody they should be back in school or they shouldn't be, that they should wear a mask or they shouldn't. But based on our conclusions that evening, we decided that we thought for many children that there was more risk to them not being in school than them returning to school. And we wanted parents and children and families to have the decision whether or not to return in person. And so this was a tool that parents could use, that local trustees who actually should be making the decision for their districts. Unfortunately, our governor has been making those decisions for everybody. But in a perfect world, the districts would be making those decisions. I know there are some districts that actually looked at our white paper. I know there's a small private school in South County that also referenced our paper for reopening. Palm Lane Charter School in Anaheim asked for it that same evening that it was passed. They asked, would we send them with white paper? We did. I know Jeff's new charter school has used it as a reference. So it's there as information for anybody who would like to use it. And we just felt that we owed that to our constituents. Our constituents feel that it was important. Many of them can't believe that Dr. Maharis could actually exclude us from a meeting right at the Board of Education. But apparently, according to our legal counsel, he does have that right. And therefore, we often have to conduct our own meetings outside of meetings that he does.
Yeah, so I want to make a couple comments, then we're going to move on to something that's kind of going on right now. Our school hopefully will open, and I've got strong opinions about the mechanism by which we should open. But here's the reality: parents and kids really should have the choice, not bureaucrats. And in our school, I should probably move closer here. In our school, we're gonna open, and what we want to do is we want to open based on the science. And what that means to me is that I don't think it's a healthy thing or a necessary thing for a child to wear a face covering. It just doesn't make sense to me, and it potentially can be harmful. And it can be harmful because that ability, when you have your face covered and you can't see my face and my facial expressions, and now my voice is muffled, the ability to connect with an adult teacher is so critical in the education process. Not to mention that I can barely wear a mask properly when we go into a market that requires a mask, let alone a second or third grader keeping a mask on. They're going to be touching their mask, sharing it with their friend, flinging it across the room like a slingshot. I just don't think it's a good idea. That's not to say we will prevent a child from wearing a mask if a parent wants them to do so. We just don't want to mandate it. Now, we're going to follow the law, and depending on what the rules show, we'll do the best we can to comply with the rules. But I feel pretty strongly that it's not only not helpful, but it could be harmful to require a child to wear a mask. So we're hopefully going to be opening after Labor Day. We're studying the rules and the waiver process and so forth. So you come out with this white paper. You got a lot of hate. We all did as a result of it. I get that all the time. But, Mary and I kid each other to see who's got who's got the better haters, me or her. And then finally, you guys decide that you're going to file a lawsuit against the governor to say, "Come on, man, open the schools. You don't have a constitutional right to tell every school district." There's over 1,000 independent school districts in California. You don't have that right to tell individual school districts what to do. So tell us a little bit about that.
So shortly after the white paper, Tyler Bursch, a wonderful firm, trying to remember what their pro bono arm is. It's, I believe, Faith and Freedom. I should know that. In any event, they're an amazing firm that came to us and said, would you consider suing the governor as a government institution, as the Orange County Board of Education? And Ken and I, as the VP and the president, we made that decision to say, yes, we would like to pursue that. We then brought it to the full board, and it was voted unanimously 4-0. Becky, who had been in on the meeting earlier, decided to go someplace about 8 p.m. and rather than hang out with us and vote. And so it was 4-0 that we unanimously voted to sue the governor on a pro bono basis. It would not cost the taxpayers any money. And that's what we did. We basically worked with them, gave them information. They referred to the white paper. They interviewed parents and families. There were some other plaintiffs in addition to the Board of Education. There was also Palm Lane Charter School was part of the lawsuit, and a couple of other families. Or it's all public knowledge. You can take a look at it. And so we pursued it. It took quite a while to get all the information together to do a job. And I think what the key was in this lawsuit, because there's been a couple of other lawsuits that haven't really gone anywhere yet, was that we went straight to the California Supreme Court. And so I think that was sort of the secret sauce to let them know that this was of such importance that we went straight to the California Supreme Court. Often when you do that, they bounce it back to the local jurisdiction. They did not. We submitted the case. In less than 24 hours, they accepted the case, and they gave the governor until today at 3 p.m., which was less than a week, to respond. He has responded, and our legal team is reviewing that response right now as I speak, so I'll know more probably late tonight, and we now have to respond back by Monday. So it made an impact. I believe that the Supreme Court of California believes how important this case is, that all children are being kept from education, and that should be a local decision, not a decision by the governor. In addition to us suing, a group of private schools also sued, so their case was separate from ours, but filed it simultaneously. So basically all of education filed suit at once to the California Supreme Court, and it was accepted. And so now we'll see what the next step is. But we do believe, again, that families have a fundamental right to an education. And right now there's a lot of families that are suffering by not being in school, and that they deserve the choice to return. And not all families will, but those that want to return, we think that they're entitled to that right.
Yeah, awesome. So hopefully this will kind of bypass all these governors' rules and so forth, and basically flip it back to the individual districts, which is really where it should be. You know, over 1,000 independent school districts, and each school district has their own elected board of education. So why shouldn't they be allowed to create their own opening guidelines and open based on what they see and what their parents want and what the local community wants? This is kind of cool. Check this out. There's somebody, this is Tina from Georgia. How cool is that? Hello from Georgia. Boy, it's late in Georgia, right? Let's see, 7:30, it's like 10:30 at night in Georgia. Thanks for tuning in from across the world. Hey, Caitlin, thanks for being there as well. So here we are in Southern California talking about COVID, talking about opening up the schools, when we should be doing what? We should be watching sports on TV without our athletes and all the shenanigans going on. It should be the beginning of USC football season. They were supposed to play Alabama for the opening game in the Pac-10, and everybody canceled their season. I'm going to try to answer a few questions, and then we'll get the heck out of here and let you go enjoy your evening. Can you still apply for a waiver? You can. And the reason why OCCA didn't apply for a waiver is because if you get accepted for the waiver, then you're mandated to follow the rules of the waiver. And that means you can only have small groups that attend schools, and certain masking policies and social distancing and all this nonsense. And we didn't want to do that. We wanted to wait until Orange County was off the wait list because we were confident that would happen sooner rather than later. But then again, here we are. There was a question too about what can you do to prepare yourself from a COVID-19 standpoint. There's several supplements that I recommend that you take while you're healthy to get yourself prepared. One is vitamin D3. I think that's very important. D3 is critical for your immune system, heart health, brain health. I recommend around 5,000 international units a day. Vitamin C is also another important product. It's easy to find. It's cheap. We use one of those emergency packs. You pour it in water. Each pack has about 1,000 milligrams, so 3 a day gets you your 3,000. Zinc is critical, 50 milligrams. There's 3 or 4 different formulations of zinc. It really doesn't matter. It's hard to find too. A lot of people are buying it, but about 50 milligrams of zinc. And then the supplement quercetin, 500 milligrams a day. And that acts as what's known as an ionophore. So it opens up the cell and helps zinc get in, and viruses don't like the zinc. And the quercetin helps alkalize the cell, relatively speaking, and viruses don't like that as well. So that's kind of the lineup of what I recommend. And then most importantly is that if you do come down with COVID symptoms, it's important to treat early. Yes, I recommend hydroxychloroquine. I'm going to read something to you. I haven't read this to you yet, honey, but I want to show you this. A patient sent me an email that I helped recently, and I wanted to share that with you. I won't tell you who it is unless you're on and you say I can. I want to give a big shout out to Dr. Jeff Barke. When I got COVID, I got a hold of a friend who told me to contact Dr. Barke, which I did. And even though I wasn't a regular patient of his, he took the time to text back and forth, getting my symptoms and information so he could prescribe medication. He prescribed hydroxychloroquine, Z-Pak, zinc, and budesonide. Budesonide is an older generation inhaled steroid that I used in a nebulizer. Within 2 days of taking the prescription, the symptoms all went away and I was taken off quarantine. I highly recommend Dr. Jeff Barke if you get diagnosed with COVID. Thank you again, Dr. Barke, for taking the time to care for me and to heal me quickly. So that's from a patient who came in today. That was very, very sweet. So this stuff works. I've treated tons of patients with COVID-19. I've not had a single patient get hospitalized that I treated with COVID-19. Actually, there was one, and that patient, actually the patient's wife called me while the patient was sitting in the emergency department getting admitted to the hospital. And I helped him through that process. Thank goodness he did okay. He was put on remdesivir. Hoag Hospital does not use hydroxychloroquine, unfortunately. We'll talk about Hoag Hospital another time. That's a whole nother story. And I think he was in the hospital for about a week or so and finally went home, continued to recover at home, and now is doing well. Okay. Anything else you wanted to say to the audience?
That's it. I think we should give them all back their Friday night.
All right. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, this is My Prescription for Liberty, and thanks for joining us. Take care.
Good night.